Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chunashume, washmale. Ohai gozaimas, guten Morgen, Olaf, bonjour, privet, kaifa hal? Halishuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba. Buna mucho gracias, Fabi. Abballi kare aaya. Hosh khair denayo sayo. Khuyamora, chivatto, chi haljut, kalimera, khairutar. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning on a very fine, very sunny morning over here in Islamabad. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and with me, I'm really lucky that I've been joined by my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajar Satti. We hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well, that your rosas are going fine as well. But without any further ado, hello Hajra, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. And without any further ado, I think we would like to again delve into the topic that Shahzad might be very touchy upon, and that is about the cricket. So New Zealand's captain praises team's collective effort. New Zealand's captain Kane Williamson expressed his joy after his team's dominant victory over South Africa to secure a spot in the Champions Trophy final. Speaking after the match, he praised his team's collective effort and their ability to set a strong target on a high-scoring ground. Looking ahead to the final, Williamson remained optimistic despite the contrasting conditions in Dubai, drawing confidence from their recent match against
Exactly.
India.
And in addition to that, not just that, there was a reason why, all of this appreciation is going on, because New Zealand actually qualified for the ICC Champions Trophy 2025 final after beating South Africa by 50 runs. New Zealand will meet India in the final on March 9th. PTV Sports obviously is telecasting the transmission live. Early, New Zealand won the toss, elected to bat first. New Zealand posted a massive total of 362 for the loss of 6 wickets, with excellent centuries from Rachin Ravindra and Kane Williamson leading the way. Ravindra played a strong innings, hitting 13 boundaries, including 12 fours and 1 6, showing his aggressive batting style. His shots were crisp and he kept finding gaps to score runs consistently. Williamson also performed well, scoring runs with 10 fours and 2 sixes. Both players' contributions were crucial in setting a strong foundation for the team. And Daryl Mitchell, who came to bat at number 4, added 49 runs, just 1 run away from his half-century before being dismissed by Nigidi. Glenn Phillips remained unbeaten on 49, also falling short of a half-century by just 1 run. He struck 6 fours and a 6.
Right, and again, venturing into the arena of sporting event, Pakistan wins a bronze medal in the ITF wheelchair tennis event. Pakistan won the bronze medal in the ITF wheelchair tennis event. Both Japan's men's and women's team qualified for the World Group event by winning the gold. Pakistan defeated Iran by 2-1 in the third place match of the World Team Tennis Cup.
Wow.
Asia Oceania qualified played in the Colombo, and in deciding the doubles match, the pair of Asif Abbasi and Fida Hussain defeated the Iranian pair to win the bronze medal for Pakistan. Congratulations to our heroes and for displaying such a wealth of experience and securing the bronze medal. Agar cricket nahi to kya hua, kam se kam tennis to sahi hai.
Yeah, and not just that, Hajar, in these time, I think in the previous year and this year, we have had, a lot of accolades to kind of cherish, for all of our athletes, maybe, the blind cricket team as well, maybe Arshad Nadeem, Noor Dastagir, but this gentleman over here, the MMA fighters. I think everybody has been doing wonderfully well as well, and the government in particular have been giving a lot of attention. But while we are here, imagine that we actually shared with all of our viewers how, Ramadan has been celebrated all over the globe now, alhamdulillah, thanks to the entire Muslim community. How, the mayor of London, he actually inaugurated the Ramadan lights, and then there was an open iftar buffet, outside the Windsor Castle, hosted
Inside
by
the Windsor Castle.
inside the Windsor Castle, hosted by the King Charles himself. Not just that, today we are actually going to take you to New York, and there's a reason why we're taking to New York, because Muslims in New York gathered at the iconic Times Square to break their fast and also perform Taraweeh prayers. Times Square is a famous tourist destination, major commercial and entertainment hub. Millions of people thronged to one of the busiest pedestrian area. The area was filled up with Muslims and echoed with the call to prayer, drawing attention to the significance of the holy month of Ramadan. The Muslims broke their fast in the area and assembled to offer Taraweeh prayers. Wow.
And I think I would like to take further this conversation and develop into a full segment, and that is that why there is a dire need to for the Islam to develop the ethics, because in this modern secularized world we have seen that ethics are getting very strongly secularized.
True.
And Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Insan-e Kamil. He was the perfect man to come onto this earth and spread the divine message of Tawheed, of Risalat, and of oneness and the perfectness of God. So why is there dire need? Because I do feel that a lot of younger people, they have somehow gone into this, very, I would say, confusing maze of the liberalized, capitalistic, secular ethics, in which we say that, your inner voice guides you a lot. But I do feel that the only prophets were the infallible entities who were able to have this, divine protection where they could follow their inner voice. We do not have that capacity, and that is why ethics are required by Islam in the first place. So in order to unfold this conversation, there's an entire very interesting article written by this very scholarly figure who has written that why ethics need Islam on the Yaqeen Institute. So for anyone who wants to access this article, please go there. So without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by Ovamir Anjum all the way from America. He happens to be a religious scholar, academician, and also a university professor. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Ovamir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, and thank you for inviting me.
So I read your article. It was a wonderful piece. So, but for our younger audiences who are so much influenced by the secularized notions of the wellness model, of mindfulness, of yoga, of meditation, where they feel that the inner voice is guiding it. Why do you want to convince them? How do you convince them by telling them that your ethics require Islam a lot?
And I want to club my question with it as well, where how ethics are perceived in Islam.
Okay, very good. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. So I usually, when I'm teaching my philosophy students, I do this thought experiment with them. Imagine you have a mad scientist, let's say on Mars, that has fitted the Earth, the planet Earth, with nuclear bombs or hydrogen bombs. And this person believes that the Earth is, has run its course, humanity has run its course, and he finds humanity annoying and wants to blow them all up. And you have one chance to argue with this scientist who only sees reason and sees nothing else, why he should not press that button. What would you say to that mad scientist? Is there any reason why the population of human beings is any different from the population of cockroaches in your kitchen? Are human beings any different from germs or bacteria that we kill all the time? Why is human life valuable? Why should we care about mercy or feeding the poor? Why should we worry about being good, being gentle? Why should we smile? Why should we worry about other people's children being killed as they are being in Gaza today? I've done this exercise many times, and there is no answer unless there is an objective reality, and you can point to God, the creator of the world, who will hold you accountable and who values this human life. You cannot give any other reason for why pressing that button is morally inherently wrong, and it's not the same as eliminating cockroach population. And so ethics or akhlaq fundamentally need a point of reference of why it is that human life is valuable. And what we are seeing in the world today, as you so eloquently described, the world is in a very dangerous state. There is great economic inequality, a few people who in fact have the mentality of this mad scientist like Elon Musk have effectively become billionaires, have more wealth than many countries put together, and they do think about the world in these cold and dark terms. There is environmental crisis, and there is spiritual vacancy, spiritual emptiness, which in fact is at the heart of the world that we see today. So that is why we need the idea of God, an ethics, a reference for ethics and akhlaq. B, we need one that is persuasive and truthful and scientifically rigorous, which is why we need Islam, because that's the only religion today that is in complete harmony with human nature, and it speaks to people around the world. As soon as they get to know Islam, people open up to it. You do not need to believe in mythology. You do not need to believe in Trinity. You do not need to believe in particular tribes or, one race of people being superior than others. So that's why I believe ethics needs Islam.
Absolutely, absolutely. But now I think we also want to delve into how to acquire ethics, and I think you have very eloquently written that in your article. And we've coming from the South Asian background. So, according to Muslim pedagogy, the tarbiyah or the akhlaq that you mentioned, how to acquire the ethics or akhlaq, and that starts from the basic unit of any society, that is the family, the household. So, which is the best method? Either it's the unconditional love by your parents, or a more strict disciplinarian way in which I think most of us have been brought up, right? Is it the fear or is it the love that we should instill in our kids in order to make sure that they grow up to be a finer, better person? Because there's a hadith of Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I think it has been corroborated by the Quran also, that Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to perfect the nobler deeds of the humankind, right? So we have this inherent innateness, goodness, the fitra, and everyone is very closer to fitra. It's just that the world that distracts us from that essential fitra. So which is the best method?
I believe the best method, the method of Islam, is we are ummatan wasatan. We are a moderate nation. We do not go to extremes, and we find this example in the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself, that at the center of Islamic ethics is love for God. Love for God, because God is where, Allah is where all this good comes from, this idea of good. And in fact, the ulama even speak of us imitating the attributes of mercy and the attributes of God and attributes of the Prophet himself, who was sent as rahmatan lil alameen. But at the same time, modern liberal ethics that center the individual and individual feeling, no matter whether they're right or wrong, are also incorrect, and they lead to a lot of problems. As an American observer and commentator and scholar, I can tell you that there are many things that, from my own upbringing, that are of great asset to me and my children, and I teach people and students about the importance of the family unit, which we have, but which is being lost in this liberal capitalist society in which every man for himself, and there is society unit is breaking down. Divorce rates are very high. Children are confused, particularly fatherhood is in decline, and people do not want to get married. People do not want to have families. People are running after money, but are unable to live with themselves. Suicide rates are very high. So despite this great wealth and power, some of the most thriving minorities in the United States, in fact, are immigrant communities that emphasize family and education, including Asian and Chinese, because they have stronger family units, but they assimilate very quickly. Islam is what is holding us together and is changing the American society.
Exactly what I would want to touch upon. Now, what I would want to touch upon is that, imagine that if we are to kind of speak about ethics, and how you very correctly mentioned that, that it's actually Islam which actually holds us together. So do you think that when we talk about ethics are related to faith, and then, it's a domino effect, because then faith will eventually lead you to good character, because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that you cannot have faith until and unless you love for your brother what you love for yourself.
You're absolutely right. In Islam, akhlaq and iman, faith and ethics are inseparable. But whenever they are separated, then you have problems. People who are secular, people who do not have faith, they do also have ethics, because they have fitra, they have nature. But that ethics is without a guide, and often is very shallow. And it's looking for a guide. It's looking for God, right? And so it is Muslims who can provide guidance, and not only guidance, but higher standards of ethics, higher than simply self-satisfaction. And that's why you're finding that people all over the world, as as they discover Islam, come to it.
Right, and Ovamir, I think this is a very interesting question that you posed in your article, and that talks about that how in a lot of secular regimes in the modernized West that we find this question, can we develop ethics and morality without the religion? And if we see those societies working there, I do feel that some of the moral values are very strong, the institutions are strong, and for the poor people, for the destitute of the post-colonial third world countries of the global south, the ethics and the morality definitely are different. So you also mentioned some of the missing gaps in this entire analysis. I would want you to please go ahead and contribute towards this discussion and I would want you to deconstruct this notion that ethics and moralities can only be found in a very secularized regimes.
Yeah, so think of a band of thieves, robbers that come together. You can have a band of robbers that is ethical toward each other. They loot, they show up on time and they go and do their killing, and they divide their loot all fairly. They're going to be successful as a band of robbers, but it does not mean they're good. Right? So similarly, colonial societies that colonized the rest of the world, they were good in certain kinds of ethics. They were good in fairness. They were good in showing up on time. This is what I call corporate ethics. And those are important, but they are of secondary nature. Then there is fundamental ethics that relate to why is it that you exist, and how do you fundamentally treat other human beings, not as instruments, but truly what is the value of human being. And that only religion can provide. And that's why you find that in Muslim societies, even though we have been colonized for about 200, 300 years, and our own institutions and traditions have declined and have been broken, we still, you go to Muslim societies and you find humanity, love for or care for parents and children, that still stands out even to Westerners who may show up on time and make great cars and great guns and great missiles, but they still find this emptiness as humans.
Exactly, which is why, since we are breaking it down, so I was able to break it down that, okay, if you are to kind of talk about ethics, there will be individual ethics, then there will be family ethics, and then there will be societal ethics as well. Now, how important it is for us as Muslims to kind of have a grip on all three of them, while we are within this society, talking to each other, looking after the neighbors, family ethics, being good to our spouse, individual ethics, being on time. So how does all of this actually play a role for us to have a good character, so that eventually when we are in front of Allah Almighty, we are being forbidden or forgiven?
You're absolutely right. The Prophet ﷺ says very clearly in a hadith that a sign of a hypocrite is that he lies when he speaks, and he cheats and breaks promises, and is obscene when in disagreement with others. So the Prophet combines here the ethic of truthfulness with the ethic of being kind to others and keeping promises as being fundamental to Islam. All of these three things have to come together: how we relate to Allah, how we relate to human beings, and how we relate to those close to us, and how we relate to even to non-living things, right? So the Prophet has taught us that we should be good to animals and do not merely treat them as things, but rather we relate to them as creations of Allah, that we are both creations of Allah. The Prophet even is so careful about the environment that he would, tell a Sahabi who is making wudu that do not waste water. And the Sahabi asked, surprised, that can I waste water when I'm making wudu? I'm doing something so good that is dear to Allah. And the Prophet said, even when you are on the bank of a flowing river, do not waste water. So the message that the Prophet has is that everything that Allah has created has value, and it's sacred. You will be asked about it. Allah has put benefit in it for us, but we should be grateful toward it.
And without a set of good ethics, so just to kind of wrap it up, does that really mean that we cannot be good Muslims?
Absolutely. The Prophet said, the best of you are those who are best in your akhlaq. And the Prophet gave an example of a woman who prayed and fasted, but trapped her cat in the house so that the cat could not go out and eat, and did not give the cat any food, and the cat died. And the Prophet said that that person, that woman, was punished for that. And another woman who only prayed her basic prayers, but she was good to everyone, good to her neighbors, and she went to paradise for that. So that's how important it is for us to have good character.
Right, and thank you so much, Ovamir, for having this wonderful, brilliant conversation. And I think we would like to again invite you over and have this very modern conversations within the stream of the thoughts that is now very much prevailing even among the Muslim younger generation youth. And we want to revert back to a prophetic era, prophetic age, and we want to revive back all of those beautiful, golden, divine traditions that we have somehow lost in this very dominant streams of the modernity of liberalism. Thank you so much once again, Ovamir, for coming here and for shedding your lights on a very wonderful and brilliant article that you have written. And now moving on to the death anniversary of the king of the comedy, Amanullah Khan, the 5th death anniversary of the Amanullah Khan, the renowned Pakistani Punjabi theatre artist, performer, comedian, is being observed today. Veteran actor Amanullah has spread smiles on the face of millions of people in his lifetime. He has made a record of working in 860 shows in his careers. Wow. And to Allah we all belong, and to Allah we will return.
May his soul rest in peace and patience for the bereaved. What a legendary actor, you know, who actually brought a lot of pride and honor to Pakistan as well. And we hope and pray that in days to come we will have more artists like these. You know, he was one of the finest, greatest theatre actors which were to actually step on this planet and were representing Pakistan. Alhamdulillah. So, Amanullah Sahab, may your soul rest in peace and patience for the bereaved.
Ameen, Ameen. And now moving on to another death anniversary of the playback singer, Mala Begum. Mala Begum, one of the renowned playback singer of Pakistan, is being remembered on her death anniversary. She was born in Faisalabad. Her name was Naseem Begum, and she was younger sister of Pakistan's first female music director, Shamim Nazli. She was the top female voices in the country, and along with Noor Jahan, she ruled the hearts of all the music lovers. And once again, as we say, to Allah we belong and to Him we return. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. And a rich tribute to her services and to her cultural contributions in the context of PTV and in the context of Pakistan.
Which will certainly always stay alive with us as well, and you know, for future generations to come and see how Pakistan progressed in terms of cultural and arts as well. But now coming a bit towards science, and you know how China is actually building a space station 6,500 feet under sea. But why would you build a space station under sea? So China is building a space station not in space, sorry, but underwater. According to the South China Morning Post, the deep sea space station will be built around 6,500 feet underwater, and it is expected to become operational by 2030. The Chinese government has approved plans for the project, which will be one of the most technologically complex installations ever made. Why do you want to make it complex? The station will be able to house 6 researchers for up to a month. They will carry out experiments and explore oceans and regions that remain out of reach. Wow. So they are actually considering oceans which are out of reach as space, right? I mean, that's a good connotation to that.
Right, and I think now we would like to delve into the science of fasting, and in order to unfold this conversation, because whenever we say science, it has a very metaphorical and literal translation to it. So in order to unfold this conversation, we have been joined by the member of the World Economic Forum. He happens to be Dr. Aftab Ahmad Chattha. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And you know, because everybody's fasting, the only thing that I could recognize from Chattha is the Chattha's restaurant in F10, you know, who's actually serves the best nihari. But since we are here talking about the science of fasting, let's get started with it. What is the science of fasting? Please take us through, and then we'll unfold the conversation.
Well, this is very important because this is the era of science.
Yeah.
So we talk like science in everything. So that's why I think it's important.
It has always been the era of science. It's just that we were too naive before that we didn't know. Okay, that there's science involved in it. Yes.
So if we talk about like briefly, I will touch the history. So if you talk in history, talking like the prime religions, they used to fast. And then we know like all the oldest civilization Even like you go to the pyramids that were like built around 2000 years BC, and there are like clues that those people were also fasting. And then all the religion we know, like Judaism.
For all the prophets who came, their Qawm actually had to fast.
So the fasting is common among all the religions
Yep,
we know.
yep,
So
yep.
this is like very important thing. That's why like it's also the tradition is common in Islam. So if we talk about like the science of fasting, it actually started back in 1930. It actually started in Russia. They started the experiments about the fasting. Like in science we check something has a side effect. So the initial like the working was to know is there is some side effect of fasting. So they have done the trials, and then they came to know there are no side effects.
Rather
Instead,
there
there
are
are so
benefits.
many benefits. So there is a huge center near Lake Baikal where they have set so many experiments. And later on, there was another center in Germany that was in Oberlingen. So they started the experiment in 1970, knowing like what is the importance of fasting. And then they came to know that they can treat so many diseases by the fasting. So fasting is like
Trace diseases.
yes,
They
you
can
can treat so many diseases
Wow.
through the fasting.
Right.
So we right now, due to the advancement in science, we know that like fasting has a benefit effect from your head to toe. Like all the organs you talk about, ranging from your brain, your gut health, your liver, your kidneys, everything is getting benefit from the
And
fasting. This is proven from so many studies.
Right,
Wow.
and I think they came to know about the studies in 1930, and I'm really doubting the authenticity of their, the
Research.
rationality
Yeah.
or the research in which they focuses a lot, because our prophet told us 1400 years ago about the benefits of that, and I think divine revelation for me is a more stronger rationale, pragmatism and rationality. But Dr. Aftab, now let's move forward into the science of fasting. And nowadays, a lot of people talk about intermittent fasting. There's this just trend of wellness and fitness and health consciousness. And as a Muslims, we have to, tell to the non-Muslim communities why we're fasting, and we often conflate it with the intermittent fasting. Do you think it's a more nicer idea?
So yeah, definitely. So the research actually proves that you have to fast like at least for 21 days to get the benefits, and even if you go beyond 21 days, you can get even more benefits. So intermittent fasting is like you fast for like for 16 hours or 14 hours, and then there is a eating period of from like 8 to 10 hours. So that's the intermittent fasting. But in like the fasting we do and all the community actually do together, like if you go for intermittent fasting, it's very hard to go for those kind of fasting with like just if you care about your health. But if you are a religious person, just like we have the conversation before with the scholar, so that actually gives you, everybody is fasting, and that gives you more motivation of doing this
Yeah,
kind of
that's true.
benefit.
So you're actually fasting as a community, so if you're fasting, he's fasting, I'll be like, okay, you need to fast as well. And it kind of helps, so when we sit together, it kind of comforts our heart. Acha, aapka bhi roza hai, mera bhi roza hai, koi nahi,
That's
time
true.
nikal jayega. But while we're at it, I think let's put it, or let's take this conversation to a direction where how, unfortunately, over here in Pakistan, diabetes is on the rise. Hypertension is on the rise, cholesterol is on the rise, fatty liver is on the rise. Let's talk about all of these issues. Do you think that fasting can actually help you with all of these issues?
Well, to be very true, I'm in the fasting research for the last more than 10 years.
Yes.
It was like, I was in one of the meeting in Okinawa in Japan, and there was a scholar from US. He gave the presentation about the fasting, and that actually gave me motivation, like there are so many benefits
Yeah,
he
wo
told
kar rahe hain, hum
about
bhi
the
kar rahe hain.
fasting, and then I started searching, and then I also did experimentation that how benefit we can have like so many benefits. If we talk about all the modern day diseases, why are these diseases? If we talk about, for example, diabetes, if we talk about hypertension, these are the modern world diseases. Why these are diseases so common? Because of the diet we are having, like all the time we are eating from the morning, we have the breakfast, and then we have snacks, and then we have lunch, and then we have afternoon snacks, and then we have dinner, and like late night snacking is all goes on. And due to that, like we put a lot of sugars in the body, we are putting a lot of fats in the body, we are putting a lot of cholesterol in the body. So what happens? We are suffering from diabetes, we are suffering from hypertension, and to be very true, in Pakistan we are suffering a lot because we have the highest population.
Yeah, but Dr. I think we might be the only people over here in the country or probably on this planet who actually eat fat with their own bare hands. How you Peshawar chaliye zara dumbe di kadai kha ke aane hain. Things like that. So we do it. But how do you think that fasting can actually help us recover from all of these illnesses? Not just that. obviously I've done my research bit of it, and that is that, imagine that when you're fasting, all of your cells go into repair system as well. Your cancer cells are being eaten by your body, so take us through that, so that people would know the benefits of fasting.
So definitely, I actually enjoy the conversation, and this is the topic I love to talk for hours even. So like if what actually happens when you are fasting. So when we are fasting, there are so many changes actually happen inside your body. For the first thing that happens in our body is the glucose. So what we do when we like not eating for like 10 hours, then our glucose is depleted from our body. So we are suffering from, definitely, if we are suffering from diabetes, that is due to the high glucose in your blood. So your glucose level is get down. And then what happens, there is a process called gluconeogenesis, in which the fat that we have in our body, that is converted into the glucose. So our fat, our cholesterol level, they get actually depleted. So if you have to weight loss, if you have to go for like the cholesterol depletion, then definitely fasting help you. So like if you are fasting, then your glucose levels get down, ketones are formed in the body. So ketones are very much beneficial for your heart health, for your brain health. So ketone bodies are formed, and they are actually energizing, rejuvenating your heart health and your brain health. And there are so many benefits. Like if we even talk about, there are ton of research available now, the effect of fasting. So if you are fasting, it's all documented, published in reputed journals, that if you are suffering from diabetes, if you are suffering from hypertension, if you are suffering from insomnia, if you are suffering from so many other high cholesterol level, you can, like if you fast for like 21 days and we are fasting for a month, then you get like, you can lower your risk of diabetes. If you are suffering from diabetes, you can actually cure the diabetes. Now there is, before this we used to say that if you are suffering from diabetes, you can't reverse it. But actually science says now, if you are like calories restriction, just like we do from the fasting, you can actually reverse the diabetes. So one thing is that high blood pressure. Pakistani population, like the recent statistics say that 46% of our adult population is suffering from hypertension. It's very common in Pakistan. So if we have to cure this disease, even there are studies, very interesting studies. So they have like comparison. One group, they have given them the medicine, another group, they go like for exercise and for walk, and other group, they are just gone for fasting. So believe me, without exaggeration, fasting has more benefits than the people on the medicine, than the people on exercise and other. So you can imagine that there are so many like benefits of fasting in like reducing weight, blood pressure, diabetes.
I think these are the medicinal benefits that you're recounting, and I think we cannot discount the fact that the purification and the taqwa and the other spiritual benefits that the Ramadan offer or the fasting offer. But thank you so much, Dr. Aftab, for coming here, for shedding light on such a beautiful topic, and inshallah ta'ala we will keep on asking you to come here and shed, because your insights are very good addition to our screen,
so
and
keep
especially
to
the conversation.
Everybody should keep on fasting.
Right. Once again, thank you so much. And Shahzad, now we will move on to another very important segment, and that is cooking conundrum, right? So what do we make? Aaj kya pakaun, right? This is the question women often find, engulfed in their household. So we have decided to take a recipe from the Instagram, and that recipe is made from the is made by Kausar Raja. That recipe is a very hit recipe. It's of the bread rolls. So why don't we go and take a look at a wonderful recipe, cooking conundrum. Aaj kya pakaun? Let's solve this conundrum.
Wow, so the bread rolls actually, kind of look really interesting to be eaten. There's that cheese that actually comes out of it. My God,
Very tempting.
We should have really seen this video early in the morning. But please make sure, give it a try, ladies and gentlemen. And there's only one thing that we keep on telling you, and that is that please make sure that you use an air fryer, and this will actually help you reduce cholesterol, all of those pimples that you're getting because of deep fried food. Please make sure that you move on or hop on to healthier choices.
Right. And now we are going to develop a conversation on a book that has came out, and that is more of a poetical expression, and a poetical expression of a person who has seen the ups and lows of her life. And, now she is enjoying her womanhood, her motherhood. But obviously, as a person, as a human, life is not always a bed of the roses. True. So how to balance so many different identities that you are treading, being a mother, being a daughter, being a wife, and being also a friend, and so many different identities that we are constantly juggling through. Without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by Nadia Najib. Assalamu alaikum, Nadia, and thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Wonderful to have you over here. It has, how Hajra actually mentioned that, that we have so many roles to kind of fulfill as well, which is why I'm going to share a couplet just before we get started with this conversation. Sure. So, ada matlab, nigah matlab, zubah matlab, bayan matlab. Ada matlab, nigah matlab, zubah matlab, bayan matlab. Bina matlab, kahan jaun, jahan jaun, wahan matlab. So let's get started with our conversation.
Nadia, so tell us about your book, about your poetical expression. What is it about?
Sure. Okay, so I'm very excited to tell you that recently I've launched this poetry book. Here it is. I've got it in paperback. It's called Chapters of Me, My Journey Through Poetry. So basically, Chapters of Me is a deeply personal collection of 59 poems that captures the many phases of life, its struggles, joys, and moments of reflection. The poems in this book are written from the years 1997 to 2025. I wrote all these poems from when I was 11 years old to 39 years old. And the categories in this poetry book are also the genres, which are 9 genres: inspirational, romantic, heartbreak, spiritual, nature, motherhood, tragedy, solitude, and hope. So this book is available on Amazon, and anybody can purchase it from anywhere in the world.
Well, I guess it's great. So I think rather than, us talking about the book, what we should do is that from every genre, we would want you to kind of share a few couplets as well. So let's get started with, first of all, inspirational. So what do you have inspirational to share with our audiences in 46 different countries so that they know what they're in for while they get this book as well? Chapters of You or Chapters of Me.
Okay, awesome. So I'll start with an inspirational poem. It's called Have You Ever? So do you want me to read out the poem?
Yeah, just a bit, so that we can kind of justify all the genres as well.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, right, I'll just do the start and the end of this poem. It's called Have You Ever?
Yep.
Have you ever been caressed by the winds? Have you ever danced in the rain? Have you ever embraced life's precious moments? Have you ever fancied walking on the most deadly lane? Have you ever slurped the undrinkable? Have you ever witnessed the unseen? Have you ever survived the unlivable? Have you ever dwelled where you've never been? Have you ever uttered all the wrong words just when the time was right? Have you ever felt astounded, stepping into darkness from light? Okay, I'll just move on to the end of this. Have you ever wondered that you really have it made? Then suddenly time grips you off guard and you see yourself fade. Have you ever taken out a moment or two to reflect the reason you were born? Have you ever prepared for that reality? Do you doubt that you too will soon be gone?
I think there's some very personal touch going on, Nadia, and it is deeply moving, and I could feel your emotions very vibrantly dancing through these words that are coming on. So, Nadia, one of the very interesting, I said, chapter in your book was heartbreak and healing, right? And I think as humans, we often go through this phase, where there's ups and downs. Life is always not a bed of roses. So, tell us about that chapter and how has that journey changed you and what helped you in your healing?
I think that is in poetry. I feel like the negative sides like heartbreak, trauma or like tragedy, these are very important because when I look back and when I used to be writing a lot of poems, every time I was really, really sad and feeling down, I just wanted to write poetry. And even with songs, probably you've also felt the same. Sad songs really move you in ways that happy songs don't. So, yeah, it
But
happens
happy
with
songs
me. I'm
kind of
not.
move you as well if you're on the dance floor. But yes.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Right.
Exactly. And
Okay.
in addition to this, I think what I would want to kind of know over here is now imagine that where you spoke about sad songs or poetry. It's just that I do feel that it has such a great influence on you that it certainly changes your mood. Just like that, all of a sudden you come across this song and you will start to miss someone, and all of a sudden there's this good song and you kind of have a nostalgia to that song. You'll think about all of those good memories. So while you were on this journey of writing this book, Chapters of Me, how did you kind of comprehend? Was it always like that, you somebody's thought came to your mind and you started writing? Was it like that, okay, today I feel like this, so probably I need to do something? Or is it more like Ahmad, ki yaar ab Ahmad Ori, it's coming to me, I should write it down?
I think I would say it's more like Ahmed. With poetry, you have to have it. Like it just comes to you. Uh, because a lot of times I would sit down and I would be in that mood to write, but I couldn't because, yeah, there has to be a time for it. And something in life, whenever something moves you, I think that's when it automatically happens. Like different things in life, like looking back, earthquake was one of those things that really moved me and changed a lot in me. So I did write about the earthquake also, the things that I went through, and different traumas that happened, anything that moved me.
Right. And Nadia, you have two amazing toddler kids, and you're constantly sharing their clipages and also the parenting tips and techniques. And obviously, you're living in Canada, you're far away from your support system, from your family, and there are lots of things about Pakistani life you miss a lot as an immigrant there. So, how do you navigate that parenthood, that motherhood? Because I feel that there is a very different sort of parenting, very calmness to your personality. How do you develop that with two toddlers? Living in a community in a very isolated sort of isolated in a sense that you're far away from your support system, from your family, from your parents. So please tell us about that navigation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when we moved here, we literally didn't know a single person, and it was like we were out here and we just had to build a life on our own. So, of course, we wanted to network, find some support, kind of like support system. And luckily, here you do find some resource centers and libraries, places where you can actually get a kind of like support, especially like parenting side and social life. We had to build it all up. Um, so yeah, I think one has to make an effort, and once you find the right places, then yeah, there is support. There can be support, but you have to
Exactly.
go out and seek the
And
support.
and you know what? So just I think a few months ago, I actually came across a video from an airport in Canada, and it really didn't look like as if it was Canada because I think it was all desis around, and I was like, wow. I mean, so there must be a lot of support for a lot of people who actually go to Canada for a better livelihood. How are things in Canada in general? Because the weather conditions obviously is really very harsh. For anyone who actually comes from there, that's one thing that they would always speak about. But in terms of support system, in terms of resources, in terms of getting to know your own people, community, society, how does that work for you?
Okay, so one thing when we talk about Canada is very important is that Canada is the second largest country in the world. So it's good not to generalize Canada. So like every province can be thought of as a different country because every province is completely different. So I can talk about Nova Scotia where we are. Nova Scotia is one of the friendliest places in the world, to be honest. So like here people are extremely friendly, they'll go out of the way to help you, and like even parenting wise you'll find so much support, people are extra helpful, all of those things. So yeah, it's very friendly here. There is not a very big Pakistani community, but like people from anywhere in the world who are here, generally the vibe is very, very friendly and everybody is out there to help you, to make friends. um,
And have you
yeah,
written
that's one of
something
the
on
main.
friendship as well? Have you written something on friendship, and can you share it with us and our audiences?
Friendship.
Yeah.
I don't like those poems.
Right, Nadia, but I think there's a very interesting chapter in your book, and that is embracing solitude, right? And I think nowadays, with all of this conversation on mental health and the crisis that we are going through, we yearn for solitude, right? So, can you explain to us what is your idea of the solitude? How did you formulate that, and how did you put it that into the words?
Okay, so in this section, I basically just wrote down my thoughts when I was feeling extremely low, extremely down, and I felt like I could just not, when that you sometimes all of us we go through a phase where we're in such a dark tunnel that we don't want to talk to anybody at all. So those poems can be very dark. And the reason why I did want to share those in this poetry book too, because we these are the feelings that we all go through, regardless of whether we want others to know or not. But these are just human raw feelings which all of us go through, and it's okay to feel that way too. Yeah. So when we're talking about solitude, I can maybe read out one poem. It's called "The Cure is in the Pain." So let me just read out a few lines from that. Just bear with me.
Right, and I think when you have toddlers, I think solitude becomes such a luxury that you yearn for it because they're so needy and obviously they're depending on the mother. It's very, very difficult to find a time for yourself, and I think when you do not have the children, and I think that the time of the solitude that you are getting, that is one of the best time. I think Nadia could, relate to that more of it. But yes, Nadia, please go ahead.
Yes, this was definitely before I had kids. So, okay, so this one's called "The Cure is in the Pain."
Right.
Missing those stolen days of charm, like the deserts miss the rain, for the sake of shattered hope, wading through these oceans of pain. Traveling through an eternal journey that started as a conclusion of disaster, walking through the depths of agony, yet going on and on faster. A walk to eternity, being forced to go on, hoping for a ray of light to appear through a solid wall. Knowing there's no dodging path, no escape from the ironical bar, feeling only shadows surround, seeing only particles of dust by far. Last two stanzas now. Looking for light through forbidden bars, crying with hysterical tears, pondering through the thoughts of neglect, trying to overcome my fears. Looking through shattered glass for hope, yet achieving at all no gain, blindly sipping tears of salt as the cure lies in the pain.
That's
Wow.
wonderful. That's wonderful. And I certainly think that the cure lies in the pain. But unfortunately, we're really, really short on time. Thank you so much, Nadia, for sparing your time. And for people who are interested in such a deep emotional lessons, please go and buy her book. It is such an amazing literary piece, literary wealth, and you will certainly benefit for that. So
Exactly.
until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz.
Please make sure that you write to us on our email address, which is worldthismorning@ptv.com.pk. Towards the end, just one share. जितनी जिंदगी जलानी थी जला दी हमने. अब धुएं पर अफसोस कैसा और राख पर बहस कैसी. Look after yourselves. Ramadan Mubarak. Allah Hafiz.
Ramazan Mubarak. Allah Hafiz.